Hey, courageous school leaders. Welcome to Lead Beyond Limits, the space where school leaders like you gain unfiltered insights from educators, uncover the hidden barriers holding your staff back, and get practical strategies to lead with confidence. If you're ready to tackle the real challenges in your schools and create the clarity your team needs to thrive, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and get to work. Hey, courageous school leaders. Excuse me, allergies are starting to kick in as soon as spring arrives. I hope you all are doing well. This is Dr. Demia here. It has been a while, a lot has been going on, been really busy, which is a very good thing. I hope you all have been doing well. I have missed coming on live and doing recordings to share with you. But I'm back, so welcome back. And today, we're going to talk about why most school initiatives will fade by month 3. Okay, so let me start with a question. Have you ever introduced something in your building and it felt like a great idea in August, right? At the beginning of the year, in the summer when you're doing the planning? You and your team spend time thinking about it. You've collected data from the previous year to say, yes, this is the direction that you need to go. You talked through the vision. Everyone in the room understood what you were trying to do. Seems so clear, right? You shared it with your staff. People are nodding in agreement, starting to feel good about it, right? The conversations are positive. And then a few weeks later, something shifted. Some classrooms were doing whatever that initiative was well, and some classrooms were doing something slightly different from your original vision. And then a few of the other classrooms quietly went back to what they were doing before, right? They didn't really fully adopt the initiative, okay? So it's nothing dramatic, in the school that's happening. It's just gradually you're starting to see that, okay, some classrooms have picked it up and are running with it. Some are, put their own spin on it, and some just went back and are not doing what, we initially talked about. And now you're sitting there wondering, what happened? The idea was strong, but the alignment didn't hold across classrooms. That is big. Most school initiatives, they don't fade. They don't fade because it wasn't a good idea, or most of them don't fade because it wasn't a good idea. They fade because the design of the rollout wasn't complete, right? It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't clear enough. So today I want to talk about something that we don't discuss very often in leadership. And it's not about, again, it's not about the idea, because the ideas are great. It's not about training, because Lord knows we have enough of that, right? It's about the design behind how change gets implemented in your buildings. Okay? So let me give you a real example of what I mean. So imagine a team of teachers that decide that they want students reading stronger texts. That's great. So the teachers come together and they design a novel-based curriculum. They select the grade level books, they create the discussion questions, they align it to the standards, they build a writing task, right? Amazing. On paper, it looks absolutely fantastic. So the leadership team says, okay, great. Let's roll this out building wide. Everyone in the school begins next month. Now, what usually happens next? Some teachers will run with it immediately. Some teachers will adjust the pacing, right, based on their class. And some teachers adapt parts of the structure, not the whole thing. And so over time, the experience starts to look different depending on the classroom. And so again, this is going back to the idea wasn't the issue, the rollout was. Now imagine a different approach. Instead of announcing it building wide, only 3 teachers pilot it first, right? They test the pacing. They see where students struggle. They notice which discussion prompts work and which ones are falling flat, right? So they adjust the unit in real time. They refine the directions, right? They're clarifying expectations as they're doing this refinement. So by the time it reaches the entire building, the design now has already survived all of that friction. Now, it's not to say that friction is not going to happen, but the onset of friction, which is one of the reasons why a lot of initiatives will fail, has already been experienced by these 3 teachers who piloted this initiative, right? So a good idea does not guarantee a stable rollout. There's some things that need to be in place for that. And so I need you to put your leadership lens on and be a little reflective as well as we go on. All right. So here's something that I've noticed over the years working with school leaders. Many initiatives are announced before they're stress tested. The idea makes sense. The plan sounds clear. The training happens, right? But the structure hasn't been observed in real classrooms yet, right? And classrooms always reveal things that planning will miss, right? It's that whole idea of, the theory and action. So it will reveal things like, when students respond differently than expected, or teachers interpreting directions differently, right? All of those differences will multiply. And so buy-in from staff rarely starts in a meeting. The buy-in grows when people see something that's working in classrooms. When teachers experience a structure that actually works, the alignment becomes easier, because the design already makes sense, right? This way, you're as a leader, you don't feel like you're actually pulling or forcing teachers to do something. When you're providing them with the evidence that something works, they will do it happily, as long as you're supporting them in that process, right? And because you have other teachers who are piloting these things, these initiatives, you have this internal support systems other than yourself, right? So I asked you at the beginning to think about like this reflective lens. I need you to think about like what initiatives have you introduced to your staff where you could have piloted a portion of it first to get more buy-in from your staff, right? We know that you're the leader, but because I told you so, it doesn't work as a school leader. That is the absolute wrong way to move a school in the positive direction. So reflect on moments in this school year or in your career where you could have piloted something to get more buy-in. Just think about that for a second and hold that thought, okay? I want to give you something practical right now. I want to give you a way to look at how mature a new idea actually is before it spreads across a building. Okay? So I like to think of this as like a design spectrum. So most changes move across 4 stages, right? We know the power of 4. So stage 1, is the idea stage. The idea exists, it's strong, a small group believes in it, but it hasn't quite been tested yet, right? It's this kind of, sometimes it can be a reaction to what the data has said. And so you have an idea to impact, because of that data, what you can do to fix the data, improve the data. So these ideas start jumping around, and then you all come up with, okay, let's do this. So this is where many schools will announce the idea building-wide, school-wide, right? Again, it's just an idea form. One of the reasons that you will announce it school-wide is because you may want feedback from your staff around the idea, right? That's more data for you to use to make the adjustments that are needed. So that's stage one. It's the idea. Stage two is the pilot. So now this initiative or this idea is tried in a couple of the classrooms. Your staff is running, your teachers are running it, and students are interacting with this idea, this process, this initiative. They're all falling under the same umbrella, right? So now students are engaging with this idea. Bam, confusion starts to show up. And that's fine, because that's showing you where the gaps are. So that's fine. But when confusion starts to show up in the pilot few classrooms, that's really manageable, right? And this is where, the teachers who are running it, including, remember, you and your leadership team are engaging with teachers on how to refine it, and what things do we need to do or change or add or remove, right? Because of the confusion, now directions start to get clarified. And now the structure for this idea is improving, which is a win-win. Your students are winning, your staff are winning. If something hasn't been piloted, it's still an idea. Okay? Piloting is key. It gives you data so that you can move forward and be successful. Let's move on to stage 3, which I like to call the stress test. So now the structure runs during a busy week, right? Everything is flowing the way it's supposed to. Teachers are doing what they need to. Students are interacting with it the way they need to. The confusion has been clarified. Now it becomes clearer, right? Teachers implement it without constant explanation. You are now observing what's breaking, right? And what's actually holding in this idea, that the implementation of this idea, and where the breaks and gaps might be. Adjustments are continuing to happen. This stress test is repeated, right? Each week, something else will come up that will poke at that idea or the implementation of that idea to make it fall. What's important here is the iteration of adjustments that happens when things are poking at your idea, right? The stress test, will it hold? And then the last stage, which is what I like to call installation. So you've gone through the idea, the pilot, and the stress test. Now it becomes clearer of how this idea or structure or initiative can actually live in your building. Now it's clearer. Expectations are now documented. Ownership and roles are clearly defined now because you've run through the pilot. You've experienced the stress test, right? The system can run without constant reminders now because everything is falling on a rhythm, on a cycle. Everything has a rhythm. That's when you know that you're ready to scale. when things are running on a rhythm and don't require constant reminders. At that moment, that's your installation. That is when you know that you can now make this a school-wide initiative. Scaling something doesn't solve design problems. Okay, it can actually make it worse. Scaling will multiply it. You have to have the pilot, you have to have the stress test before you make anything full blown school wide. Okay, it's the smartest thing to do. Not that you have to, but it is the most strategic way to introduce anything, any new initiative, even if it's coming down from the district level. Okay, so excuse me. Here's something that I would like you to consider trying this week, because it is Monday. Remember, I asked you to think about and reflect on a pattern. Think about one initiative, not a pattern, sorry. Think about one initiative currently happening in your building. One thing. Maybe it's a curriculum shift. It could be a PLC protocol, a new instructional routine. Maybe it's even a grading practice, right? And I want you to ask yourself 5 questions. Ready? Has this been piloted in real classrooms? Because you and I both know, honey, things on paper are very different from what happens in reality in your school building. Oh, it looks great. Sounds wonderful on paper. All the things that come down the pipe sounds good. But in real classrooms, it's a completely different story. So ask yourself this thing. Think about the one thing that you have, an initiative that's currently happening in your building. Like I said, a curriculum shift, an instructional routine, a grading practice. Ask yourself on this one thing, um, this one initiative, has this been piloted in your classrooms yet? If it hasn't, then you know you need to stop and figure out how to pilot this first and work through the kinks so that everyone else can have success. The second question is, have you observed confusion without explaining it? Right? Are there staff members who are confused about this initiative? And if there are, then that's another place to pause. The third question is, has the language been revised on feedback? Have you gotten feedback? Have you collected data from your staff about this initiative? Have you received feedback? Critical, ongoing. That should be an ongoing thing. The fourth question you need to ask yourself is, has it run successfully during a really busy week? A lot of things going on. For example, have there been interruptions with the initiative? Has it been put on hold to take care of something else? Consider those moments. And then the fifth and last question I need you to think about with this initiative that you've run this year is, could it run without you reminding people? That's a big one. If you're not there, does it go to the wayside because you're the person who's, managing it and making sure that things are getting done, the initiative is actually being implemented? So consider this. If several of those, like the responses to those 5 questions are no, then your initiative may still be in the design phase, the idea phase, right? Not the enforcement phase. Okay? So I'm going to have to hop off because my allergies are really bothering me. So I just want to close out here and say that, you know, one of the tensions, and I remember this very well as a school leader, one of the tensions that we as leaders feel is the pressure to move quickly, like at an exponential rate. There's always going to be another need, always going to be another need. Another initiative pops up, another priority pops up, right? But thoughtful design often requires us to slow down first. Piloting, observing, refining, and then installing. I know it seems like the antithesis of what we do in public education, but slowing down first will mean that your structure is going to be well designed enough that it begins to hold on its own. It doesn't need you to hover. Okay, so consider that. Um, and keep in mind, all these initiatives that come down really fast often are going to lead to slow implementation anyway. So slow down at the beginning instead of at the end. So slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I say it all the time, and I believe it to be true, and you will too. And I'm sure you know this already. Okay, so pay attention this week on how things are being introduced in your building. Like, reflect on those things. And then sometimes the difference between frustration that you may be feeling and alignment is simply stronger design before the rollout. Okay. I'm having a master class. We shut the school down for 75 minutes a day, and scores increase. And what we had to do first, a master class this Wednesday, March 23rd, 25th. Today's the 23rd, 25th at 10 a.m. So I will put the link for registration in the comments. And until I see you again, I would say next Monday, but the way things are going right now, I don't know. But until then, I need you to continue to lead courageously and lead beyond limits. Keep going, y'all.